Ed Harris is trying to figure out why Alec Baldwin is there in a suit and looking impressive. And
that's his first line. I think he walks in and says, what are we talking about? What are we talking about? We're talking about leads? That's Alec Baldwin's first line.
Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Life Insurance Academy podcast. I'm your host, Austin Lope-Silvero, and I'm here with Roger Short, Chris Ball, and Zach McElwain. The LA podcast takes you out of the classroom and into the conversations of top producing agents in life insurance sales so you can level up your business. For Cliff Notes, check us out at lapodcast.com or on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Life Insurance Acad. Thanks for joining us today, and we're diving into one of the most widely discussed topics in life insurance sales, leads. Now, there's a lot to know about leads, and it's probably one of the most widely discussed items if you are searching for it on the internet or looking on Facebook. And we'll get into a lot of the questions that people have. But before we get started, I do want to lay down some groundwork, set up a foundation, if you will, for those that are new to the industry or maybe checking out the opportunity. Chris, walk us through the background of what people used to do in this industry for leads and kind of how that has changed and what the big hype is on leads.
There's a couple of options when you get into the life insurance industry. You can go work at a big boat. We'll say a boat. I don't know why I called it a boat, but you can go work at a big company and you will generate your own leads, typically of your family and friends, your warm network. I'm using quote fingers, your warm network. And I don't think anybody wants to be, what was the guy's name on Groundhog Day? Ned? Mm-hmm. Is that his name?
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing? You know, always bothering people about selling life insurance. So what's the other option? The other option is leads. And if you can get a lead, to get a lead, you have to have a niche, right? You have to have somebody you can market to. So you get a lead. It gives you the opportunity to have a conversation and possibly a sale. So in our business and final expense, there's a lot of energy and a lot of excitement around leads, about opportunities to be able to go see people. And that is almost to a point where we are kind of lead addicts in this type of business.
Lead junkies, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Lead junkies. We're looking for a fix.
This is not a new thing, though. I mean,
No.
As long as direct sales have existed, people are trying to figure out the secret formula. So you go way back in the day and you get these door-to-door salesmen selling vacuum cleaners.
Or when they were selling wheels to cart vendors in the 1500s. Is that a thing?
The 1500. How did you go there? Your brain just takes leaps.
Would you be interested in?
I mean, in the epic sales movie, Glenn Ross.
Beautiful.
It's all about the leads, right? The good leads.
They almost glow when he opens it.
And the now disgraced Kevin Spacey at the time was the manager, and he's holding the good leads.
The Glengarry leads.
The Glengarry leads, correct. And, Jack Lemmon just wants a shot at some of the good leads. And they keep distributing the Patel leads. The Patel leads just keep getting redistributed over and over. And everybody knows this. And they just want the good. Just give me some good leads. I know I can sell some if you just give me the good leads. The Patel leads, everybody's worked those Patel leads. Just give me the good leads.
Yeah.
Put the coffee down, right?
Yeah.
Alec Baldwin shows up and tells them coffee's for closers, and these guys are all suck, and it's all about the leads. So you see these guys out trying to figure it out. Al Pacino's lead gen is at the bar. He gets people drunk and he sells them stuff at the bar he gets them over the edge. Ed Harris is trying to figure out why Alec Baldwin is there in a suit and looking impressive. And
that's his first line. I think he walks in and says, "What are we talking about? What are we talking about? We're talking about leads." That's Alec Baldwin's first line.
Oh,
great movie.
So, I mean, this goes back. So, in any sales organization, it comes down to: are there qualified, potential, highly likely convertible clients or people to see that are going to be interested in our product that we can sell to? Obviously, sales has changed online with the Instagram purchases and the ads and Facebook and all that today. Through online sales. But in direct sales, when you're sitting with somebody, selling them something, you got to have someone to talk to. So it's either door to door, you either call on your family, make your list of top 200, or you find a good lead source.
This
So,
that word qualified is interesting.
yeah.
You know, like when I got started, I didn't know what was a good lead or a bad lead. You know, what is qualified? What is a qualified lead?
Well, it depends on what people are looking for. I think nowadays people don't want to improve themselves or, in their way in the home or, to be good to work any type of lead. It's almost like a treasure hunt. They're searching for those guaranteed sales. They want the lead that is a guaranteed application with no work, with no effort. You literally just show up and the app's already filled out and you say thank you and you go right to your next one. And people just keep searching for it and keep searching for it.
So, like, Roger, when you say leads have been here kind of for forever, right? For direct sales, one thing I'd like to, like, kind of dive into is in this industry, like, let's talk about kind of the evolution of leads, right? Like, in the different types. So, Chris, you mentioned it. What are the different types of leads that people may have used either when you started, Roger, like when you started those types of leads, and then maybe the leads today that are years later? Like, what are all the different types of leads?
Years later,
I know
Roger.
he said years later.
Years.
Like, so when I started in the life insurance business 8 years ago, there was essentially, specifically in this final expense segment that a lot of our business is in, most of the lead gen was done through direct mail. So,
and what does that mean for new agents?
Lists were compiled of people who fit a certain demographic category. So obviously in the final expense arena, they would run somewhere about 50 to 85 in age demographic, and then there would be a certain income demographic established. Typically middle to lower income families are the primary demographic that are interested in putting final expense plans in place because they don't have the additional funds or they're not self-insured, and they're living on fixed incomes now. And so you target those people, send them a piece of mail that talks about final expenses, funeral costs, plans to cover that, and give an opportunity to fill out that card and put it in the mail and send it back to you in a postcard, in an envelope, in a tearaway pack, snap pack, all these different kinds of mail pieces, pink, yellow, blue, red, white, doesn't matter, but they all typically would say something about final expenses, life insurance to take care of funeral costs, those sorts of things. And if you're interested, send us back. Some of them would go to the detail of putting, how much of a benefit do you want? $5, $7,500, $10,000, $12,000 in a benefit, which one, circle it, spouse's name, their address, phone number. And so those would come back in, and then agents would work those. So that was typically a direct mail piece. And Chris talked about qualified. So, and Zach alluded to the fact that people are looking for the perfect lead with the, 100% guarantee that it's going to be an application. And what I've learned over the years is that while there is a ton of different content that you can put on a mail piece when you send that out, some of them are more vague or more generic. Some of them are more specific. The more specific you get, the lower the return or the higher price for that lead. The more general you are about that, you'll get more people responding. And some people just want the ones that are, like Zach said, that are the surefire sales, but those typically also equate to the highest cost because you're really narrowing your funnel. You're really, and to use an online term, you're really narrowing your funnel down to dial right into that specific client. But
it's almost a different sales approach. I mean, you're kind of an order taker at that level, right? Versus having a sales skill set or practice.
Well, I mean, you still got to get in touch with them. Mm-hmm. You still got to set up an appointment to go see them or knock on their door and introduce yourself one way or another. But direct mail is still a very big part of that market. And with mortgage protection, it's still a very big part of that market. Records are procured and people send out direct mail pieces to individuals who just recently signed a mortgage or refinanced their home, and they talk to them about benefits of having a mortgage protection plan in place, a life insurance product with additional benefits to protect new homeowners or people who just refinanced and got a $100,000 mortgage to a $400,000 mortgage, and what the benefits are of a life insurance product to protect that. And so those people send those back in the mail. So those would be direct mail pieces, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then now we have, in addition to that, digital leads, right? And so those are sourced from Google, from Facebook. How does that process work?
Well, obviously with the onset and explosion of the internet in the last 10 years, Google being the biggest player in that market for online search, it's now very easy to search out and find sources of every company in the world is out there now toting they've got the best online leads. And so when you start, we all even went to a conference a year or so ago in Vegas, to a conference called LeadsCon, and the amount of people that were talking about data acquisition.
Oh. Verticals. The word vertical was used.
The word vertical and data acquisition. It's hilarious, and they're just acquiring data and reselling it to other people who are reselling it to other people.
Yeah.
And anybody who remotely responds and expresses an interest in anything, you can also receive information on a new set of knives and check this box, and it's on these published websites, and then that creates a lead, and those get sold. And so online now you've got a Google lead that you can purchase as a life insurance lead, and the vendor will actually state that lead is sold up to 6 times. Once it's generated, they push it out to 6 different people who've placed an order for that region.
It's a fight to
and
the
you got to
death.
fight to get there. It's like a race, it's a bunch of hurdles, and you're jumping over. You're trying to get to the finish line before the other guys. In some cases, you're trying to push them down so they fall into the hurdle while you're trying to get to the finish line. So there's that, and then there's probably one of the more used leads now, especially on the final expense side of things, which is a Facebook lead, because of the age up in the demographic of Facebook users and seniors who are now on Facebook.
Which is crazy. It totally flipped from its origin, right? It was just college students, and then all of the college students that grew into general younger age millennials, and then now it's almost flipped, and now the millennials don't get on Facebook because all their parents and their family is there, right?
Yeah.
And so now this medium that I think probably when it came out, was probably written off of, why would we ever use Facebook? That's just where the young people are.
Yeah.
Is totally flipped and shifted to being something that's being optimized now for the older generation, and simplicity, and also, nowadays, the fact checking and validation that's happening on Facebook.
Well, everything that they just went through with data and security and privacy and all that, there's just so much data that you can mine through those mediums, and you can target people. If you click on anything on Instagram, which is now owned by Facebook, that stuff will chase you around the internet for a month until you say, I'm no longer interested in seeing these ads. There's a lot of technology now that can blow you up, and you wonder, this is freaky. I said the word Bose speakers to somebody last week, and now every ad that I'm seeing on the internet is about Bose speakers.
Weird.
You don't even know how it happens.
It is interesting too, as far as how Facebook, when you look at Google and generating leads through what is that called? The Google Ads, or
Google Ads.
The Google Ads, is that what they call
just
it?
Google.
Google
Ad
and
stand.
then that would send you to a lead funnel, lead page.
But there's a specific search, that people use for Google for different types of things. It does make sense to me, though, that Facebook is a relationship engine practically. You're connected. Grandparents get on there because they're connecting to their kids. Parents get on there because they're connecting to their kids.
Well, I think too,
so it dovetails pretty nicely.
And so, from a millennial standpoint, if you're trying to learn something or look something up, we naturally will just Google it, right? Versus asking someone. Versus the generation that we're probably targeting, they're not asking Google. They're going to Facebook and writing a post that says, "Hey, I'm looking for this. Can anyone recommend?" Right? It's that relational side of they're not going to Google and searching it. They're going to Facebook and searching it. So if we're already on a platform where they're building these relationships, or just scrolling to see what their other relationships are doing, and then you show them an ad immediately, it makes sense that Facebook would be better, right?
What's interesting about that is when you're looking at the different types of leads, and you're looking at, digital leads, direct mail leads, and even using a digital platform like Facebook to generate referral leads, or warm market leads, it may be different. They're targeted through, Facebook ads like we're talking about. But like you said, just making that post, hey, I'm looking for life insurance. Does anybody have any recommendations? And all of a sudden you could get tagged in their post, or you should check this out, or you should reach out to him, which is the new way to, connect with their community to spread that word of mouth. And when you're really thinking about, what a lead really is, what a lead is, not what we want it to be, not what we, 100% closing, but it's, it's just an opportunity to have a conversation. And, these platforms allow us these opportunities to connect with people to do that.
So with all these conversations of different types of leads, where they're coming from, I think it raises a good question of what's a good lead and what's a bad lead. So first, is there such thing as a good and a bad lead?
I think it depends on your perspective. Is there a bad lead? I don't think there's a bad lead. There's not.
Chris says no.
I say no.
Zach?
No.
Roger?
I say no, but that comes with qualifications.
Right. But from a new agent's perspective,
you cannot believe
yes.
you cannot believe there's a bad lead.
Okay.
You cannot believe it because it's a mindset issue and it can derail you because then you're spending mental energy and emotional energy and trying to figure out which ones are the good ones and the bad ones, who the buyers are and who are not the buyers. And I mean, you're done. As a salesperson, you're done when you're spending the energy into that versus how you're going to engage, how you're going to connect with somebody. That's where the focus needs to be. All you need is opportunity. So if you're sitting at home trying to figure out who the buyers are, you're making a huge mistake.
Yeah, and if you're working in an agency or you're new in an agency and you notice that you're getting your leads all from the same source, from the same data, from the same demographic of people, but you have people within your organization that are performing at a high level every single week, you have to consider those variables. And when you're looking at what those variables are, one biggest thing to me is the quality of the lead can be determined on your own personal skill level. Meaning, if you don't put any time to get any better at what you're doing and perfect your craft, then you might need to find that mysterious, ever-eluding golden lead that is an automatic sell.
Delivered by unicorns.
Right, that lead, right? The one that comes and it's a golden ticket and it's sparkly. But the reality is the more experience you have or the more you've went through and the more you understand what a lead really is, you almost would prefer that more vague lead because you're going to find the real need in the home and really help that family regardless of what that card said. You don't need it. You could take the training wheels off the lead card, as Roger talked about quality, and the opportunity is still there. So when you look at is there such good thing as a good lead or bad lead, it's about these variables that are involved.
I want to jump in and say that I do think there's probably some crap leads that are being sold. So when I say no, but there's I'm qualifying that. There are crap leads being sold on the internet. I mean, there's no doubt.
Like what? Like what qualities would characterize a crap lead?
Oftentimes you can you can connect with a what I would call a publisher lead, which is companies that generate multiple websites. They direct people to their websites. They make offers for certain things. And while they're there, they ask them if they're interested in something else. And if they even remotely say, yeah, sure, right, you can send me some information on that, all of a sudden that's a qualified lead. And then that lead is being resold to 6 or 7 people in mass. And they're the lowest price leads that you can buy. So, some big companies who invest in these types of leads are working from call centers. Like they'll have call centers that are making outbound calls, and often they're feeding into a robo-dial system. So if you're living in 2019 right now, getting ready to go into 2020, and you have not gotten a robo-dial call,
you better sell your phone number.
Yeah,
you make a lot of money on that phone number.
Like there's so many robo-dial calls now that are coming in, especially they've probably targeted me because I'm over 50 now, but with Medicare and the health insurance plans, especially this time of year during open enrollment period, this 6 or 8 weeks leading up before Christmas for people that are turning 65 on Social Security, things like that. I mean, they're just blowing up your phones, and the numbers are being generated from everywhere. Sometimes they have the prefix of your number, and then sometimes they're coming from California. And fortunately now a lot of these wireless companies let you put in spam or telemarketing alerts, so you can find these things. So there are there are leads that I believe that are oftentimes, crappy. But in volume, you can still make those work based on your business model. So if you're in a call center where you're expected to make 200 dials a day, you can work through a bunch of what I would call crappy leads and still make 2 or 3 sales out of that in a day if you're doing online sales, over the phone. So there's crappy leads, but if you're in a model where you're expected to go see people in their home and sit with them, and you have to work with those leads, boy, you're going to be making a lot of dials and get very frustrated. Yeah.
But
I'm sorry, and I do think it's what is the expectation of the lead that is generated, or how is it generated, that determines the quality or the value. The value, because some agents would say, I like a more qualified lead because I value my time, and they feel like they get higher conversions. Some people will say, I don't have much cash flow and I'm trying to find my way into this business. I don't just want to knock on random.
I value my dollar more than my time.
And that was my next question was like, if you're a new agent and you're in an opportunity that makes you pay for your leads, right? Like, obviously you're going to want to make sure you're getting the most bang for your buck. Outside of running all of the leads, is there anything that, they could ask their lead provider to say, hey, I don't want this, or like, I mean, I don't know. Can you ask that question? I don't know.
I mean, we all hesitated when we said, are there bad leads? Because, that's a different question there, and for which we just explained, but there are better leads. And the qualities of that you really want to look out for is freshness. How long ago was it generated? It may be it's never been assigned to anybody. These are wonderful golden leads, right? But it may have been generated 8 months ago, which doesn't make it a bad lead, but it probably doesn't help your response when you actually contact that client if it was generated 2 weeks ago or 2 days ago.
Yeah, it takes a level of skill to be able to do that.
Yeah, so these are differences that can be there. One of the biggest thing is, if we know a lead is just an opportunity to have a conversation with somebody, we want to make sure we're having that opportunity. So if that lead is also generated and shipped off to 6 different people, and
so one way to like figure that out is like terms like exclusive versus shared, right? Like, like terminology that they might be seeing when they're looking at these leads, like shared versus exclusive, or fresh, or
like. And when you do this business long enough, especially going into homes and talking about life insurance, you can guess what their product is based on how much they're paying for it. And the same is true for leads. So if I get calls like this when I talk to agents, when they'll say, I'm paying $17 for direct mail leads. Well, I know it's not 1985 anymore, right? Yeah. I know that. So like that number's not a real number. So how, on the lead generating company's perspective, are they going to make money off that lead? The only way to do it is to sell it to multiple people. That is the only way they're going to make money off a $17 direct mail lead. Or they have
they're in a business model where an agent will have a reduced compensation to offset the cost of the lead. And so then the lead becomes subsidized by the IMO, the insurance marketing organization. So it's a subsidized lead. And you can go all the way down where leads are free in those, in some of those other business models where they're subsidized completely, but the contracts are adjusted to pay for leads. Someone's paying for leads, but a lead, it costs more than $17.95 to generate a good direct mail lead.
And depending on where you are in that home, if it is sold to 3 or 4 people, and you know that and you're okay with that, it's great. But if you're new into the industry and not a ton of experience, this is where you really got to dial in, because let's say you are first in the home, which is awesome, but chances are those people paid for those leads too, and you're going to have 2, 3, 4 people coming behind you talking to your same client. So you really need to make sure that you have developed that relationship with them, or vice versa. Maybe you're not the first one in the home, but you're second or third. You better make sure that you're doing your job and your due diligence to go in and really take care of the client, because most likely they got a plan 2 weeks ago.
And to even piggyback off that, I mean, we talk about buying an exclusive lead, and it's probably one of the most desirable leads to get in the final expense side of things, or even in mortgage protection, to get an exclusive lead. But we can't kid ourselves. There are hundreds of other marketing organizations out there, thousands of other life insurance agents out there that are also marketing to the same type of demographic. And for us to think that they're not receiving a marketing piece from another company in the same week or in the same month, and they've responded to multiple pieces, we're just being delusional.
Right.
So sometimes
that,
we get
that
into a
lead
home.
could be given to you exclusively, but they might have filled out another card, or they might have filled out a direct mail lead that went to one provider, but then later
filled
on
out an
Facebook,
online
they were
response
right. So
somewhere else online, and that went to another provider, and so another life insurance agent is contacting them. So, yeah, when people are searching for something, they don't search one source. I mean, I do the same. I was searching for things this morning, and I'm searching 3 different sources for the same type of product. Now, I'll have ads chasing me around for a while on that, right? I'm going to respond to one of those and make a purchase. It's Christmas. I'm looking for something specific, so I am likely going to make a purchase.
What are you looking for?
I'm not telling you.
Just whisper it.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the reality of it. So even when we do have an exclusive lead, you do have to have, like Zach said, the trick to this, the secret that what nobody's telling you is that person expressed an interest in what they read in that marketing piece, whether it was online or in the mail, and they responded to it. Is that a guaranteed sale? No. It's an opportunity to have a conversation about the product that you have to meet that need that they express an interest in. And it's your responsibility as the life agent to get in front of that person, either on the phone or physically, depending on your sales model, to have that conversation with them to discuss their need. You're going to find that other people have been there ahead of you, but guess what? There's going to be someone coming behind you 2 or 3 days later in a similar situation thinking, man, I wish I'd have gotten there 2 or 3 days sooner. So we're in a high demand marketplace, and it's you got to go to work every day.
And one of the most exclusive leads you can have, like I said, is that warm market or that referral lead, because that client may have not been marketed to with that lead card or that mail piece, but just from connecting with your client, that is a warm touch with a relationship connection of somebody they trust that you sat with that now trusts you to be able to talk to them about it. So it still amazes me how many people don't really dive in and take that serious and really. I know, Roger, that was your goal every single week, was to go through and to get a referral. Or 2, and to actually pay for your entire batch of leads. So essentially you had free leads every single week, even though you were on a paid lead contract.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, referral leads are the lowest cost lead you could ever invest in. And it just takes some of your time to ask questions. I mean, back in the day, there's famous life insurance salesmen in the history of life insurance sales, right? Nobody grows up saying, I want to be a life insurance salesman. But if you go back and look, and the best ones were always these people who went out and talked to people and shared the value of their product with family, friends, networked, door to door, networked friends. Who do you know? Who do you know? And that's how they built their book of business, and they become famous for it as a result. So there's no shortage of being able to make a living. There's no shortage in opportunity of being able to make a great living here. Leads just help us accelerate getting in front of people, so you spend more time sitting with people than you do trying to find people.
I think that's a really good way to put it. So it sounds like the real secret of leads is not the source, but it's really the approach, right? Like, I've taken a few notes from what you all said already, and it sounds like the secret is not what's on the card, but how you approach it, right? Your mindset. It's the timeliness. Let's kind of talk more to that of like, why doesn't it matter where you get the leads or what's on it, right? Like, Zach, you said that pretty confidently earlier. Why are you so confident in saying there is no bad lead?
Well, because to me, they're not filling out the lead card to talk to somebody. They're filling out the lead card in order to take care of a need within their family. And when you're looking at that, and when you understand what we're here to do and how we're here to serve people, it doesn't matter to me what it said on the lead card, if they wrote an additional note on the lead card, what type of lead it was. If I can connect with that family and take care of that need, and I understand that demographic that we serve, the lead card does not matter to me. It's just an initial barrier that you have to overcome, but there's no lead card that's going to remove that barrier for you regardless. So it's that initial contact. Oh, I didn't know you were coming. Oh, I didn't know you were calling. Oh, well, you're taller than I thought. You're kind of scary. You have a beard. You don't have a beard.
It's a bad day. I just got up. You caught me off guard. I thought you were going to send me something in the mail.
Yeah, and we talked about this other day just amongst us was like it's that initial perception that clients have of us when we're going to see them and that we overcome in every type of sale. But if you understand the reason why we're there, and they can feel that you're there to actually help them and find that real need and take care of that family, the lead does not matter. But once again, like I said earlier, that's hard when you're a new guy. Excuse me. When you're a new person in this, you're wanting that golden lead. You're wanting that one with sparkles on it that says, please come in my door. I'm really ready to buy life insurance, and I hope you're a nice man with a family because that's who I want to write my policy. Right?
And I have plenty of money and my bank account's good, and you can draft the first premium immediately.
And I haven't had
Those
coverage.
crack me up.
I'm 72 years old. I've never had coverage before, but now I'm ready.
It is funny. Like I think I've done this 8 years, and I've probably had 10 people say those words
A week?
10 people a week.
Yeah.
Where people have said, "So you're going to draft this out of my bank account, right?" Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
But I always refer to it this way, Austin, that they're like a bad lead. I'm not going to work a lead that said, "Are you interested in pots and pans?" and then try and knock on their door about final expenses, or a walker or medical devices. Like, I'm not interested in that type of lead because it shifts the conversation so far, right? But if it does say something about dying, about final expenses, about life insurance, and they fill that out, they may not know why. They're reacting on instinct of a deficit. I say it's like hitting your funny bone. Like, they hit a funny bone of their heart and they know they have to do something about it. Mm-hmm. My job is to bring context to that when I'm sitting with them. And we'll get to some of that stuff later. But that's my attitude. That's the importance of my attitude towards that lead. I hope that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. It's almost forward thinking. You're thinking about helping that family and not how I'm going to see this lady at the door.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
And there was one time, I think, actually, where you said, like, yeah, I didn't even realize what was on the lead card. It's almost like you're not even really looking at what the lead card is saying or reading it, right? Like, if you have a trusted source that that you said, hey, I want leads that say some sort of, like Chris said, something about death or burial insurance or right? Like, beyond that, you're not looking at that lead card other than, all right, who am I seeing? What's the opportunity? And you're like to the door.
You're exactly right, but I admit it wasn't always like that.
Okay.
When I was new, I wanted that golden lead. I wanted, okay, I don't know what to do. I don't want to knock on a neighbor's door or run the T or Cloverleaf or whatever you want to call it.
What is Cloverleaf?
It's essentially if you were to knock on a client's door and let's assume they're not home and you turn around, you're looking back at the driveway, there's a house across the street and there's a house to the left and to the right of you. Most likely, those neighbors know this client more than anybody.
The person that you had the lead for.
The person we had the lead for. So you're either able to gather information about when they might be home and also an opportunity to talk to them about, did they receive one of these in the mail?
And that's a $48 lead.
Well, that's actually didn't cost you a thing. That's the best thing about it. And if you think about it, if that client fits your demographic in the area, in the income, in the age group, most likely their neighbors are too. You know?
Especially in that market segment for final expenses, 100%.
But like I was saying, Austin, like I wanted that lead. I was scared to go to these other doors. I wanted to just be able to get in and sell a policy, and then that's it. But experience and mentors and having people around me and just understanding what I'm doing, but more importantly, why I'm doing it, it changes the entire opportunity of this industry, for which, because my mindset on leads are completely different. And it automatically goes to, what do you always say, Chris? I can't think of it. It's abundance.
Abundance mindset.
Yeah, abundance
versus scarcity mindset.
Versus scarcity, saying, oh, I don't have any leads. These are bad leads. I only have 4 people to see this week. Man, you never have 4 people to see this. I don't care how many pieces of paper you have on your clipboard. You got way more than 4 pieces. And so it's that mindset shift that allows you to, and experience and understanding. I mean, I've had people that said, do not come, and they're putting in a big old permanent marker across the entire lead. Don't send anybody to the house. I won't answer the door. They're the nicest people in the world. I love those leads. I love them.
Those are the leads that always buy.
Yeah.
Those are the responses that always buy.
It's almost
And maybe
like,
they know
don't
that
come,
about
I'll give you my
themselves.
money.
I do want
They
to
know
say
their
something
stuff.
in regards to what you just said about what you expected, the golden lead that's delivered by unicorns. I think some of that comes with the industry. There are groups and IMOs, and I know they get excited and they're comparing it. A lot of guys, no knock, they love the Grant Cardone 10X, and they're digesting and regurgitating, sometimes not digesting, just regurgitating and a ethos, like the same thing. It's like pull my string and I'm going to say the same thing Grant Cardone does. And then they sell a 6, 8, 10 figure opportunity to, somebody who's just getting started trying to figure it out. And they're like, man, if they can do 8,000 AP in a week, I'm going to do the same. This lead is going to produce.
It's the lead.
The lead is going
You
to
don't
produce.
even got to say words when you're in the home. It's the lead.
Yeah, the lead is going to produce 8,000 AP, and then all of a sudden, man, you get the door shut in your face. It was the expectation you had when you started in the first place, And I think Zach, you're exactly right about mindset and what you think.
Yeah.
It's going in and serving that family.
I say the biggest thing with that,
helping 'em.
Chris, is these opportunities that you're talking about. These, everybody, look at this. He wrote 15,000 in 1 week. Yeah, but they didn't write anything 8 weeks after that in a row, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's at the end, it's the lack of training. It's a dream you're sold and a golden lead. That's it. But everything in between is what matters. But there's nothing in between.
Right.
That's why people are constantly like piranhas looking at the internet. Well, this wasn't the golden lead, but the golden lead's out there. Who's got leads? Who got leads? Who's got this lead? Who got that lead? Who's got the best leads? Who's got the diamond leads, the fire leads, the blue leads, the black leads? Like, it doesn't matter. You can put a name on it, but it's not the lead.
The gold leads, the A leads, the platinum leads. Yeah. The
It's the work.
Glengarry leads.
The Glengarry leads.
Yeah.
It's the work. It is the work. This is a.
And there's a difference in in language that's on a lead and what someone may expect or assume. And invariably, no matter what, so we've been obviously we've worked with groups and we've been in the lead generation business for a long time. Even my previous career in sales, we were involved in that. So there's a difference in language that you can put on a card. Some of it will say there's benefits, programs that can assist, with final expenses. There are programs designed to cover 100% of the cost of funerals if you're interested in finding out more about how these programs work, okay? So did that say anything about life insurance? No, it didn't. And some people say, well, that's a bait and switch because you didn't tell them it was life insurance. Well, hold on a minute. It's still a benefit that pays for their final expenses. And that was the trigger point for them. We can just put out, do you want life insurance, and send that out, and no one will send it back, ever. You're right. You actually have to hit their why. And their why is, did they just have someone in their family that passed away? Did they just get diagnosed with an illness and they realize their mortality is imminent? Did they just finish paying for a funeral and they realized it was a lot more than they anticipated, and they don't have that money for their own family, for their adult children or their spouse to cover when they pass because of their limited or fixed income? And once we address that, people respond to that, well, it's different. And so, yeah, you can put life insurance, benefit plans starting at $5,000 up to $20,000, starting at this price up to that price. You can get really detailed. And the more detailed you get, the fewer people respond to that card, because then they realize I need to make a decision whether I'm buying right now,
Right.
and then they don't, because people don't want to move forward yet. Because they don't have enough information. And so when they say, I thought you were going to send me something in the mail, again, it's because they still don't want to take that. They're 72 and they still haven't made this decision. What they need is someone who cares, who's going to sit with them, explain the benefits, explain the liability if they don't, and how to do it in the most affordable way that makes them feel comfortable. They need a relationship with someone who cares to move them past that desire not to. It's like when you walk into that clothing store and the person bombards you as soon as you hit the door. Yeah, can I help you find anything? No, I'm just looking. Well, that's a lie. You do need help. 10 minutes later, the guy's going and getting different shirt sizes for you, especially if you're a dude, because you just want to get in and get out. But you told him you didn't want to need any help when you walked in, and that's not true. So, the human nature, the psychology of people and how they respond is going to be different. So yeah, there's different languages on the card. And some people just want the ones that are very explicit, but you're going to pay a lot more for that one.
It's constantly a balancing act versus how qualified you want your lead, how experienced you are in the field to be able to work different quality of leads, and then how many returns or opportunities do you want a week to be able to see people, because you may get the most qualified lead, but you can only afford to buy 4 leads a week. Well, you're not going to write as much business as somebody has a little less qualified lead that gets 25 opportunities a week.
Who's working on sharpening their skills and people skills and relationship development and
it's interesting to me, like hearing you talk, Roger, about these are the things. They something happened. They were sick. Somebody died. Somebody. They're concerned about their wife. They're concerned about their house. They're concerned about a debit, that's left behind. They're concerned about a burial cost. They're concerned. They. Like, you have this mindset, that's very different than Grant Cardone said this. This is a magic lead that's going to produce 10x your face, all that. It's completely different.
Not that there's anything wrong with that mindset of going and getting it.
I'm just imagining you on this screen with like all these different backgrounds flashing and money falling while you're saying that.
Explosions of money coming out with money grenades. But the
money guns.
The focus, and that's my point, is the focus is that person, those people and their specific needs, and you have an expectation that they're all going to have a need like that. That is a lead. That is a lead, not the result of the income of the lead at the moment. That'll turn you sideways quickly.
It's interesting on the mortgage protection side, right? Right now we're in a great housing market, right? Interest rates are low. People are refinancing, buying new homes, and so there's lots of people responding in the mortgage space for finding out about plans about how they can protect their family. I was just past one just yesterday afternoon, and this one called in. It was a call in, and we get leads responding in different ways: call-ins, online, direct mail, different ways.
Carrier pigeon.
And carrier pigeon. This one came in, and the person who handed me the note said, "This person is the nicest person ever." And went into complete detail about what they were looking for. She goes, it was so interesting. He was the nicest man. Said, well, I don't want to have my kids to pay for this house. If something happens to me, I want them to be able to stay here. I'm assuming this is going to be, and he was assuming prices. She said, I'm just the person forwarding the message to get a representative to call you. And he goes, well, you're doing a great job. You have an important job. What you guys do is important. I mean, he was validating her and the whole system. And yet you get someone else that calls. They say, well, I thought I had to do this as a part of the loan, and if that's what it is, I'm not interested. Thanks, click. And so there's both of those are leads. So you have to decipher and go through those to find out which ones.
Surprisingly, those cost the same.
And they cost the same to generate. Yeah. So you have to get to the real need. And ideally, when you look at a lead is an opportunity to have a conversation with somebody who expressed an interest in a product or service that you have that can help meet that need. That's all it is. What you do from there is based on your skill set and how you approach that and how you go after it. And work ethic. You just got to get after it. Yeah.
So I want to kind of ask something on the flip side of this is, whether it is a good or bad lead, like when do you know when to give up, or is there a term for when you're done with the lead? Like,
we call it retiring a lead.
Okay. So when do you know when to retire a lead? When do you know that, hey, this lead is done, right? Like, I'm sure.
I think it was, is it Frank Bettger? Am I saying his name correctly? Bettger?
Yeah. Author?
Yeah. How I
Raised Myself from Failure to Success in Selling.
He was,
great book, by the way.
You have to know your numbers. And he talks about knowing his numbers. And one of the things he was paying attention to was when he went back 1 time, 2 times, 3 times to follow up with people, and where his energy level was going and where his income was coming from. And he realized it was typically the first or second sit that he sat with somebody that he was making his sales. So then he cut out his third follow-ups and focused on 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. For us, because of lead flow, because there are so many people to see, it is a one-time sit. It is a one-time sit.
Or a one call close.
One call close. And there may be instances, but the problem is mentally, if you're mentally going in thinking, well, I'm going to follow up with Mrs. Jones when the stars align,
I'm here just to get you information,
Right.
and if you're interested, you can let me know, and we can follow up several times. And when you're ready, you can place a policy. Like, you will starve to death if that's your attitude.
You will starve to death.
Yeah.
It is one sit.
People need to be moved forward. You need to move the needle with them.
Yep. So that's for us, a lead is retired if it's a yes or no after a presentation.
And realistically, it's never really retired, because even if it's a yes, I mean, I think people say they normally get life insurance
Correct.
7 or more times in their lifetime.
Yeah.
So that means that's enough for now. I'm covered now, but things change, people change, life happens, and you're able to, I mean, how many times have you had calls from a client that's wanted to add more coverage, right? Or if let's say you didn't get that sale, well, I know all of us in this room, we maintain those leads and we visit them or call on them at another time, because like you said, people change, life happens. Their sister, their mother, somebody in their family could have passed away or got sick, and all of a sudden what's on their mind? And then you're able to go see that client again. But in a typical week, like you said, a retired lead is really a yes or a no at this time. It's not, oh, they weren't home, I didn't get to see them, or they were on vacation this week, or they were working. It was, you actually you went through an entire presentation with them, the whole process, and you got down to a result, and it was either you're in a move forward position or not.
Right. And I think it's funny because of the calls we do get from new agents. And if you're a new agent, I hope you're hearing this and implementing this, but we will get a call that says, I went through all my leads.
And it's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday.
At 2 o'clock.
I went through all my leads. What do you mean you went through? I knocked on all my leads. What do I do now? Well, you knock on them again. Well, then what? You knock on them again. Then what? You knock on them again.
You knock on them, you do whatever it takes to get a meeting with those people.
Yeah. I guess I'm done, and I'm going to go play Call of Duty. It's Tuesday at 2 o'clock. I worked all my leads.
I'm going to watch YouTube for a little while, pretend I'm
retired.
working a little longer,
Right.
and then I'll be home at 5.
Chris, on a typical week, how many leads would you say you retire?
My goal, 12 to 15. That would be my goal.
12 to 15?
Retired leads, not
Retired.
work leads.
Retired leads. Yeah.
How many would you work?
I want 20 to 25 leads.
20 to 25 to get in front of 12 to 15 people. What's why that formula? What's the formula?
Well,
obviously we've been doing this for a
I think
while, and we
we
kind of have a formula, but in your opinion, what does
we
that
have a
look like?
document. We have the science to show it.
Yes.
That's going to produce a 6-figure income doing that work. It's going to produce 6 to 8 applications every week, 8 to 9 applications probably out of 12 sits. For new agents, probably 6 to 8 applications. And that's on track to make $150,000 in this industry.
Yeah. And based on, there might be a few factors there that'll move that number up or down a little bit based on the group or association you work with, whether you're operating as a complete independent guy doing all the marketing yourself, which takes time out of the field, so you're not spending as much time with people, or you're just focused solely on seeing people and leads are provided, in a regular systematic format to you where you can just go to work. But yeah, that number of 12 to 15 people getting in front of those, the closing ratios, and we have probably just, I would say, somewhere in the range of over 30,000 applications taken in the past 8 or 9 years.
Last week.
Last week, yeah, that'd be great. And that number's not. That number's not, a complete science, but it's at least that much. It may be closer to 40. But when you run those numbers and you look at the number of leads generated, distributed, the number of agents working them, how many they work a week, how many applications they produce in a week, how many leads were retired, how many leads were unretired, how many rollover or follow leads, and lots of agents get into bad habits.
I would say there's few that I have seen that I think, man, they work their leads well. Most agents sell themselves way too short. They're not doing themselves a service. They're doing a disservice by getting out late, getting home early, finding any excuse to not go to work. mean, that's just the reality.
And if they get lucky early, they kind of bail out.
It's the worst.
So
man.
if you end up writing 2 or 3 or 4 applications and you push $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 in premium, you're like, I'm going golfing. I'm going away for
I know
the
that
weekend.
feeling. I've done it. And when I started, especially, I think new agents are highly susceptible to it.
Yeah.
I remember talking to you. I think I wrote $3,000 in 2 days. And I sat with this contractor in his house he built and got 2 massive apps from him and his wife. And I was so excited. It might have been like the 3rd week. I was giddy. I mean, the emotions that come with new agents, man. I was
It is a rush.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I was on
a drug.
I was on a final expense drug when I wrote those apps. So excited. And I called you and you're like, well, what are you going to do now? And I'm like, I'm going home. I'm going home. What do you mean you're going home?
I think one of the biggest mistakes that new people make, or just a lot of agents in general that I see, is they keep trying to dial down the number of leads because they want to save
money.
$30 or 35, whatever their lead costs. They want to save a couple of those. And the craziest thing to me is, like, when I talk to an agent, I actually talked to an agent about this, and they increased their lead order after we had a conversation. But it was like, these are opportunities. Okay, if I'm looking at your leads here, which one of these are apps, which ones are not? And you can't tell me that because nobody knows. There's a reason that we run 15, 20, 25, 30 leads a week, and you don't get 15, 20, 25, 30 apps a week, right? We know that, but we don't know if you're going to sell every one of your first 8 leads, or not sell any of your first 15, but sell all 5 of your last 5 that you see. You don't know that. We can't control that. So at the end of the day, it's an opportunity, right? And you want more opportunities because, like Chris said, that one lead could have been 2 apps for $3,000 with that family. $3,000 for that one family. That could have been his first week and he's all ready to go, or it could have been his last one because he stayed out late and he earned it. But simply having more opportunities and increasing it, even if you're adding another 5 leads, that's going to make a world of difference to your income, because at the end of the day, it's only going to add between $100 to $200 more in lead cost. And if, regardless of what contract level we're on, if you just sell one kid's policy at a low comp rate, it's going to pay for those extra 5 leads. But when we're going back to the system that Roger used to run all the time, was sell a referral anyways, and all your leads are free. If you're going to get free leads, would you rather have 15 or 25?
And do not negate older leads. I mean, we talked about the freshness of leads, things like that, but you might have gotten a lead, and let's say you're running 20 leads a week, and you're working in the final expense market, okay? And you're doing primarily door knocks instead of phone calls to see people. Like, get through 15 of those, retire 15 of those. Well, what that means is that if you've retired 15, which most agents do not, like, let's just be honest, like, we run the numbers. You can't, I mean, you as an individual, you yourself might say, well, that's not true about me, and that might be correct.
Every one of the people listen, they're the ones that retire all their
all
leads,
the listeners right now.
They're like,
I know you guys
I know
always
exactly
retire.
who you're talking about. That's generally how it goes when people listen to this stuff.
So, but we know that never happens. But if you retired 15 of those, you still have 5 that are unretired. And over a 4-week period, you've actually got another whole full week to work of leads.
It's 20.
And that's another 20 that you just given yourself. And on every one of those leads, there's a husband, a wife, there's an adult child, there's grandchildren in the home. So if you're working 20 leads a week, you've literally given yourself about 150 opportunities a month to sell a policy. For you not to be able to make a living off 150 opportunities. If you work the program, if you run the T or the Cloverleafs, you talk to family, friends, people that are on the leads, the other members in the house, if you're diligent and working those 15 and retiring 15 every week, but then you go back and circle back through and work the other 5 that you leave open on a weekly. I sold an application in my first couple of years in the business, and it was in the fall, but I got that lead in the spring, and I was never able to get a hold of this lady. And I was in an area, and my goal was a minimum of 4,000 in production a week when I started. That was my goal. I knew what my contract was. I knew what my lead cost or investment was, and I did the numbers, and I knew what my household earnings needed to be, and that was the minimum number I had set for production. And in order to get that, I had to write about 4,800 to 5,000 to get 4,000 in issue paid business. And I wasn't at my number, and it was Thursday evening, and it was dark, and I was like, I got to run some, and I pulled out my file box, and I had leads in there from the zip code that was unretired, because that's how I categorized them. And I pulled out that lead. I drove by because it was close. I said, I got to see a couple more people. I need one more sit. And I drove by and the light was on and there was a car in the driveway. Finally, like I had done this like 6 or 7 times the first 2 weeks. I got the lead and then it just went into that file box. And I kept working the new ones like most agents would. Well, I went by, the light was on, the car in the driveway. I ended up sitting with that lady, selling her a policy. While I was there, an adult daughter came in, sold the adult daughter a policy. The next year, the adult daughter called me back to say she wanted to put more insurance on her mom and her. I got back. We put more insurance on the daughter because the daughter had a mortgage still on her house. And she said, if anything happens to me, I'd like for my mom to be able to move in here. And the following Christmas, I got a call from a funeral home saying that they needed me to come out to assist with a benefit on the life of the daughter, who was diagnosed with aggressive cancer, and within 12 days from understanding what her diagnosis was, had passed away.
Wow.
And like that's real life people, right? And there ended up being 3 policies that were written because I went back to an old lead. But more importantly, not only did I make good money doing that, I made a difference in the lives of those people doing that. And so never negate a lead or devalue it because you couldn't get a hold of them. Like do the work to get in front of the people. These are real people. They've expressed an interest. And while you're there, do the other work necessary to be a successful life agent.
Glad you paid that $15 for that file box.
Yeah. And kept the lead instead of just throwing it on the back floor of the car and end up losing it in the trash and cleaning out the car at the car wash and saying, oh, well, these are no good and just dumping them. You know, that happens.
Here's a question I get frequently when I'm hiring people is, what is the average agent do? And when it comes to leads, and I'll ask them, well, are you average? That's my question. But the average agent, and here's the numbers, okay? They retire 30%. Average agents in America, they retire 30% of the leads that they were distributed.
Truly retire.
Truly retire.
Yeah.
That's 6 out of 20. 6 out of 20.
6 to 7 out of every 20 is what the average person retires, legitimately retires.
So there's this pile up just sitting at their house of stacks of paper that they could use to reach things in high cupboards that's to stand on. The massive amounts of opportunity that is just blowing in the wind that never got followed up with. It's
Families have expressed interest that have need.
Yeah, just like this couple.
You can make a wonderful living just following agents, working their leftover leads, just taking their scraps, just whatever you don't want, and you can make an amazing living.
Yeah.
So the secret that nobody's really telling everybody in this business about leads is that there's no particular magic in that lead card. The magic's in you, and you got to go out and work your system every week diligently and understand that the people who filled out that card had a reason and an emotional reason at the time that it's an emotional response. Sometimes it's a logical one, but 90% of the time it's an emotional response related to feeling value for family member or an obligation to be responsible, something like that. They responded, and it's your opportunity now to go see them and help meet that need. And if you work a formula and stay consistent with your formula, if you're working 20 to 24 leads, you're committed to seeing 12 to 15 people, writing those 6 to 8 applications, you will make a very healthy lifestyle and income in this business. You will create that for you and your family, and you'll do it making a difference in other people's lives. So that's the secret. The secret is you got to work the system and let the system work for you, and stop judging that lead's a good lead, this one's a bad lead, I can't find them, I'm going home. Get out of your head, work the system.
And that's a wrap for today's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the Life Insurance Academy podcast. For show notes, links to some of the books and worksheets we talked about, and more, visit liapodcast.org/EP2. That's liapodcast.org/EP2. If you enjoyed this podcast, make sure to subscribe and rate us 5 stars on whatever platform you're listening to today. And then give us a follow on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We're at Life Insure Acad. The Life Insurance Academy podcast is hosted, edited, and mixed by me, Austin Lopes-Silvero. This episode was produced by Roger Short and myself. Our theme song is by Flashing Lights. We'll see you on the next episode, where we'll be discussing the 5 reasons why people don't buy. Until next time, drive safely and be a difference maker.